Hi, everybody. Vandu, this is KK Uncle, and it's an extremely happy moment for me. I'm sorry. Uh, to introduce Dr. Vandana Revati Venkateshwaran. I know every part of that big name very closely and from a long time. Uh, my my duty is to introduce Vandana. I know Vandana from her childhood, and I have seen her growing up as a scientist uh, with great pride and honor. Vandana has a very strong background in physical sciences. She took her graduation in physics from Delhi University, did her post-graduation in nuclear fusion and engineering physics from University of Gent. She took her PhD in evolutionary biology from University of Kiel, Germany, and worked as postdoctoral fellow in the University of Illinois, Urbana Champaign, whatever it is. You must apologize. Pardon me if I'm misspelling it. She was awarded the Dieter Rampager Award nominee, Max Planck Society, Germany in 2020, Erasmus Mundus Fellowship Award, European Union Education and Cultural Commission, visiting research fellow, lots of very strong experience. And today, currently, she's working at Henry Ford Health as a data analyst, bioinformatics, computational biologist. And I'm sure she will be beginning this year of quantum science and technology, which we are celebrating in an appropriate manner. I'm nobody to kind of get into the subject. She will talk about that at length. She is part of what you call the People Science Movement ever since its inception. He has been part of Tamil Nadu Science Forum. As a child, she knows Malayalam and Tamil, so but she'll be talking in English. So welcome, Revati is also there. Thank you, Revati. Thank you, Vengadi. Thank you. I'm not taking more time. I have lots of things to talk about her and their family, but I'll not take your time. I invite Vandu to give the lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, KK Uncle. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. As KK Uncle said, I know Malayalam, but it has been so long that, I just thought I'll stick to giving quantum science in English. It's already a little difficult subject to explain in English. So that's what I'll do. But you can ask me your questions in Malayalam. That's fine. Also, at any point, it's okay if I am interrupted, if you have any questions regarding the particular slide that I am doing. And in the end also, I think there is time for questions, so we'll have that as well. Okay. So, yeah, this is something that I learned when I shifted from pure physics to interdisciplinary field like mathematical biology, that if possible to a general public audience, if it's possible to give science or something like physics or physics lectures without using equations, then it means that even the presenter understands the subject. So I'll try to keep this, I'll try to have no equations in this particular lecture. And that might be a good thing for some people and may not be for some other people. I also just realized that this is the first lecture in your quantum series. So I also have some quick recap on quantum mechanics and stuff like that also in this lecture. But we will start with just a quick introduction of what is quantum biology. So quantum biology, as the name suggests, is the study of both quantum mechanics or quantum science and biology. So quantum mechanics, simply put, is the science of very small, very tiny particles like electrons or photons. And quantum biology is the study of how this very tiny particles, or the quantum mechanics, which is the science of the very tiny particles, they affect the living organisms. So it is a new and exciting field that combines both physics and biology. And by understanding how quantum mechanics help in biological systems, we can find new ways to improve technology, healthcare, and also sustainability in the environment. So, for example, recently an ongoing study that's going on is to understand better energy systems, and that's inspired by photosynthesis, which plants do every day. And to understand this, we need to understand quantum mechanics or quantum biology in the context. So we are doing, we were talking about doing a quick primer on quantum physics and classical physics. So simply put, classical physics is just what we can see, like the macro objects, like a football or the sun, earth, moon, car, books, planets, basically the everyday objects. It can explain how things move, why they fall, and also why objects bounce or crash. But quantum physics is different. So quantum physics, it helps to study the science of the small particles. Uh, and that happens also at a much smaller scale. So in quantum physics, we go into a new world. In a way, we go into the world of tiny particles such as atoms and molecules or light. Um, it's a science that deals with things that are too small to see with just the eye. And it's completely different from classical physics, where it's just a football or moon. And to give an example, so for classical physics to start with, imagine that there is a ball and it is rolling down this hill. So it moves in a largely predictable way, and we can calculate exactly how fast it will be going at the bottom. You might need equations for that, but there is proper set equations. That's the point. So if it's on top of the hill and now it's going down, what's its speed? How much time it takes to fall from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill? What is the acceleration at even every second or microsecond? What's the force, if at all, applied on the ball? If not, even if it's just gravitational force, everything is basically going in a predictable way, and we have set equations to answer these questions. However, with quantum physics, um, this whole world, it behaves a little strangely. For example, if you are looking at a tiny particle like electron, let's say, for example, it behaves a little strangely, at least for our understanding. Instead of moving in just a smooth path, it may be in many places at once. And it also acts like a wave and not just a tiny ball. So this is the dual principality. So where these kind of small particles like electrons or light, they're both wave and also a tiny particle. And this is super weird, right? But quantum physics or quantum mechanics, quantum science, this science basically explains how these tiny particles act, and it shows us that the world, that or the quantum world, on a very tiny scale, they don't exactly follow the rules that we see in our daily lives. And quickly, we'll talk about the rules or the characteristics of the quantum world. So, quantum physics has very interesting features. And as I mentioned, and some of the key features are these super complex looking words like superposition, entanglement, uncertainty, and more. But we'll try to understand them. Since I was not supposed to use any equations, I replaced equal to with is. And this is the only slide which will have something like that. So this is important to understand this whole concept of superposition in a very fun way. So as I said, in the quantum world, you can have like an electron or a photon that can exist in multiple states at the same time. So imagine if at this second you are looking at this presentation from your room, you're also at the kitchen, unless you're looking at the presentation from your kitchen. But imagine you can be in two different places at once, like in your bedroom and the kitchen, or in your kitchen and in your garden at the same time, or in Delhi or Bombay at the same time. It's not possible for big um, things like us, right? But tiny particles can do that. And it's very interesting because when I was in high school, two scientists who are also part of our people science movement, K.S. Balaji and Balaji Sampath, they explained this to me in such a fun way. So they asked, can we go back and understand if we, like, say, if you want to be in the same position, in the same time at two different positions, is it possible? It's possible if you're a small particle like an electron. So the reason is because if you understand that speed is related to distance covered in a certain time, so for a certain time, if the time is really, really, really small, then the speed has to be really, really high. So your speed has to be as at least as much as of speed of light, which is, in the magnitude of 10 power 8 meters per second. So you need something like that to be able to be in two different positions at the same time. That's how fast you need to move. So that is one of the reasons why we cannot be at two different positions at the same time, because we might have to need like infinite speed, almost infinite speed, which we don't have. We don't have that because we are very big. So our frequency is very low, and our size is very big, as at least as compared to an electrons. So we have all, therefore, because as our um, frequency is also very low. So for a wave, you need it to be basically be able to spread out over a huge distance. So if our frequency is tiny, then our energy is also very low. So therefore, it's all connected to each other: energy, speed, the distance we are able to cover, time. So therefore, in simple terms, since we have low frequency because we are a big, massive object, and therefore we move very slowly compared to tiny objects like electrons, and our wavelength is also very large to balance out our very small frequency. But electrons, they have a tiny wavelength because they have a much higher frequency and energy. So therefore they can exist, or they are able to be present in different states or positions in the same time. So that's one thing that is special in the quantum world. The other thing is called quantum entanglement. So two particles can be connected in such a way that whatever happens to one of them in one instant, it affects the other also, no matter how far apart they are. They can be like, one can be on Earth and one can be in Mars. So it's like having a magic dice that always shows the same number, even if one is on the Earth and other is on the Mars. And this is the second property, and that's why it's called entanglement, like they're tangled together. And finally, we have or another example or a quick fact about this quantum entanglement is also used in quantum secure communication. So say in the real world, you want to send a quick message, you want to send a message to your friend. And in the real world, I mean, the messages would be between institutions or governments and, even people, But if you want to keep it secure, then you can use quantum secure communication, because the key part is that it's potentially unhackable, because any attempt to come in between and interrupt or intercept or even measure the entangled particles will quickly change their state, which means the original person who's sending the message and the person who's supposed to receive the message will immediately know that, okay, someone is trying to come in between our message. And it's like an alarm system which tells the people who are actually communicating that there is a spy in between. So in the real world, we do not use quantum encryption for our text messages right now. But it is already being used in high security fields like government communication, financial transaction, and other sensitive data transfer. So one of the everyday examples of quantum computing is, for example, drug discovery. We'll also talk about a little later, because as soon as we talk about drug discovery medicine, we're kind of going into quantum biology. But just to mention here that one of the most exciting uses of this quantum computing is in drug discovery, which is the development of new medicine. And how it could work, a quick note, is basically the problem with traditional computers is that the molecules and atoms that make up the drugs are very small. And if you know, in the small quantum worlds, things behave very strangely, right? So molecules and atoms in the drugs are also like that. And traditional computers, they are great at solving problems about how to send a rocket to space and things like that. But they struggle to calculate or simulate complex molecules because it takes a lot of time and power to calculate all the possible interaction between the atoms. And that is why we have quantum computers to the rescue, because they, just like our regular computers have bits, quantum computers have something called qubits, quantum bits, which, because of this quantum superposition that I mentioned before, where one particle can exist in many states or places at once, and also this entanglement, where the particles are connected or entangled in a way to each other. This way, they are able to process a lot of solutions at once instead of going through them one by one. At the same time, these quantum computers are able to solve the problems. And another fun fact, some scientists are also working on quantum computers that could copy how our brains work. So quantum biology this way might also help us understand how to build more powerful computers. So these are the different examples. And another special thing about quantum physics is this principle called uncertainty. So in simple terms, it's it's impossible within a certain limit in the quantum world for these tiny particles to know everything at the same time. So for example, if you want to know how fast it is moving, then it is hard to know its exact position. If you want to know its exact position, then you won't be able to find how it's moving. So in simple terms, if you want to measure a particle's position, then you are less precisely able to measure its momentum. Momentum is the speed and direction. So the vice versa is also true. And this is basically a fundamental property of nature, and it is not mistaken. Like, say, you might think, okay, maybe the problem is with the way we are measuring or the tools that we are using to measure. No, it's not, none of that. It is just the fundamental property of nature. So it's like trying to zoom into a tiny object on a microscope, right? The more you zoom into seeing what it is, the harder it becomes to see how fast it is moving or where it is headed, right? It's the same thing like that. So it's hard to know too many of their features at the same time. And these are basically the complementary properties that I just showed in the screen now. So I mentioned position and momentum. There is also spin, up and down, or energy and time. And it's these are the complementary properties. So if you know one, if you want to know one precisely, you may not be able to know the other as precisely. And one good example that I read is, imagine you are trying to shine a light um, like a thought experiment, like trying to shine a light on an electron. Now, if you shine the light, then maybe you can see exactly where it is. But if you remember, electrons and light also has its own small particles called photons. And when the photons interact with an electron, the electron is, of course, immediately going to now change its velocity. So therefore, its momentum is going to be changed now. So this is one small example to show that even if we have all the right instruments in the quantum world, it's hard. There's this thing called uncertainty principle. And because I mentioned quantum spin, I also will quickly talk about it because this comes a little bit later in the quantum biology part. So imagine we have a tiny top, but a tiny top just spins like how when you spin a top, it goes like this, right? In the quantum world, the spin is not the same as like in a top. Here, basically one thing you can't see, it's quantum spin. And it's something that tiny particles like electrons have inside them. And as you can see in this picture, they can go in all these different kinds of axes. And it's and again, it doesn't look exactly like it's in this picture too, but this picture is just a description. And then we have something called quantum tunneling. So imagine you are at the bottom of a hill and there is a big wall in front of you. Normally, if you want to get over the wall, you have to climb on top of the hill and then reach the other side, right? And in this normal world, as I said, we don't have enough energy to climb over the wall. So we'll basically just be stuck at the bottom. But in the quantum world, tiny particles like electrons, they don't follow the same rules, right? So instead of having to climb over the wall, as shown in the top picture, what they do is as shown in the middle picture, they are able to tunnel right through the wall, and as if there is no wall at all. So it is not really magic, it's just the science of the quantum world and based on the electron's property that it's able to do it. And this happens because in quantum mechanics, the particles, they don't have a fixed position, right? If you remember. And they also exist in a wave-like state. And this way, the wave can spread out and even pass through things like this impossible wall. So sometimes these particles, they have a chance of being seen on the other side of the wall too, even though in the normal classical world, it won't be possible. So one good example, as I show here, is what happens in the sun too. You know, the sun is one of our major energy source, and the sun's core has a lot of pressure, but the particles inside the tunnel, they are still particles inside the sun, they are still able to tunnel through the barriers and cause the nuclear reaction to happen, and thus creating the energy light that we basically get. And now we'll move on to quantum biology. It's the same thing. It's still quantum mechanics and quantum science, but now we're going to look at how it's going to be used to study the deep nature of living things like plants, animals, humans. So just like classical biology explains a lot of how living things work, how our bodies move, how plants grow, how DNA works also can be explained a lot by classical biology. But quantum biology, it looks at how quantum physics can explain some strange things that classical biology cannot. And some examples are like given in this picture: photosynthesis in plants, how birds navigate, enzyme reactions, and also DNA repair, which is very, very important for life. So the first thing we'll look at is photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, we must have read in school that the plants use sunlight to make food. And classical biology can explain the general process, but it couldn't explain how the plants seem to know, in a way, how to be so super efficient in using the light. And now scientists have discovered that it is the quantum superposition principle. Remember the first principle that I mentioned, where the particles can exist, the quantum particles can exist in multiple states at the same time. So this basically is what can help plants in efficiently using the light. So when a plant captures sunlight, the particles of light called photons, they hit the plant's molecules, right? And now quantum physics suggests that the plant's molecules itself will exist in many states at once. So this way, they are able to allow they're basically able to explore all the possible paths to find the most efficient way to convert sunlight into energy. So this is like they have many choices, and among the many choices, instantly they're able to pick the best one. So that's one example. And the other thing is bird navigation. And this article itself is really nice. Actually, it's on Scientific American. And some birds, basically, they use the earth has a magnetic field, right? I mean, that is why our compass also works. So because of the earth's magnetic field, they are able to navigate and find their way from over really, really long distances. So scientists believe that quantum entanglement, the second principle that we spoke about, where the quantum tiny particles are connected to each other in a state of entanglement, right? So to understand this, let's first understand the mechanism inside the birds. So in a way, the birds, they have like three different compasses at their disposal. So one allows them to extract information from the position of the sun in the sky. The other uses the patterns of the stars at night. And the third is based on the Earth's ever-present magnetic field. So these birds, they have a special molecule in their eye that might sense the magnetic field through quantum effects. So it's like quantum entanglement. So the chemicals or the particles in their eye with the magnetic field, they're basically entangled. So this way the birds can see or understand the magnetic field, and they use it to guide their navigation. So there are many steps involved in this. So this is an example of the European robin. And in fact, this study was done by these two women scientists, Dr. Dittner and Dr. Christian. And what they saw that this quantum entanglement and also this quantum spin state basically helps birds like robins detect the Earth's magnetic field, and they go from and this way they're able to travel large distances. And the mechanism is that in their eyes they have something called cryptochrome, and it's something that is a molecule, and it is very sensitive to light. So when light is hit, it changes the way that it affects this quantum spin. So when the photons or light hits this molecule, it causes a quantum reaction in which the molecule's electrons then change the spin. And then there is also, so that's where the spin comes into account. And now we have quantum entanglement. So what happens is the electrons in this
Vandana,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. By light, what frequency are you referring here? What frequency of light excites these molecules?
Oh, just regular. I'm just talking about the sunlight.
Visible. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's just whatever the bird sees. So whatever we see, basically. Just
Okay.
yeah. It's just as soon as it hits, it just causes a change in spin. So that's how sensitive it is, the cryptochrome. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And the quantum entanglement, what it does is that the electrons in this cryptochrome molecule that we just spoke about, and there the spin of one electron is linked to the spin of another electron, no matter how far apart they are. And now this state is also super sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field. So this way, the Earth's magnetic field interacts, or the birds, say molecules interact with the Earth's magnetic field. And then it also changes the way how the molecules reacts to the light. So this is how the bird can see the magnetic field. It's almost like it has an extra sense, but it's all because of that particular molecule that it has through evolution. And this way, they're able to figure out where to go, how to go, like all the way from the one part of the world, they go like miles and miles to another part of the world, and they all reach, I mean, mostly, they reach the destination very precisely. One quick detour here, because I particularly like that research, because where I did my PhD, there is this group called Behavioral Genomics Group, and this scientist, Professor Leedvogel, I think she even has open positions right now, and they work with these birds, and they try to see how evolutionarily also how these bird species are able to, using the compass in their head and the Earth's magnetic field, they are able to go these vast distances. And the birds that they look at weigh only 15 grams, but they go through harsh winters or summers, and because of this amazing molecule that they have in them. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. And the other application of quantum biology is in enzyme reactions. So enzymes are basically proteins. So we have these special proteins or enzymes that acts as a catalyst in our bodies to help speed up the chemical reactions. So scientists now think or are finding out that quantum tunneling might be playing a role in how enzymes work. So to go back again, when we saw that example of that, like climbing over the hill, which happens in classical mechanics, but in quantum mechanics, we know that the particles can do something like quantum tunneling, where they pass through a barrier that normally one shouldn't be able to pass, but because of their characteristics, the particles are able to pass through, because they have their waves can be spread, or they're very small, and they can exist in different states. So because of quantum tunneling, the small particles in the enzymes, they are able to also tunnel through and make reactions happen much faster than the classical physics would allow. So this is one example, and actually one of the very, very important examples. This is the mitochondria, and this is where the cells produce energy. And without this, even the cell wouldn't exist, and no living thing would exist. So something as important and crucial and fundamental as this requires quantum tunneling, and it's a very good example. So this electron transport chain is basically where you have all these these electrons that are the free electrons that are traveling from one part of the mitochondria to the outside, and this in this process, the electrons, they move through a series of series of different molecules. And only because of quantum tunneling, they are able to, these electrons, because they are small and they're quantum particles, they are able to jump through these barriers that the classical physics wouldn't normally allow. So what normally would happen if the quantum science wasn't there at all, let's say, and if there was no tunneling that was possible, the transfer of these electrons would be very, very slower. So which means the energy that is produced from the mitochondria to the outer wall and then beyond the mitochondria would be very, very slower. The transfer would be so slow, and therefore the energy production also will be very, very slow and much inefficient. But now, because we have quantum tunneling, the electrons are able to tunnel through, and we have a very efficient electron transport chain within the mitochondria. So in simple terms, in the human biochemistry, what happens is, we're going through a little more detail now. So it's this enzyme cytochrome C oxidase that we really need. And that is the enzyme that actually plays a key role in the electrons transport chain in mitochondria. So now this enzyme, it is the one that helps us generate energy for our cells by transferring the electrons. So because of quantum tunneling, they're able to move through this enzyme cytochrome C oxidase. It uses quantum tunneling to move through. And this way, we are able to have efficient energy production in our cells, and faster also. And The other application of quantum biology lies in DNA repair. And to understand this, we need to have a quick recap of DNA. And as always, I use this example to show what is DNA. So let's say we're looking at a peacock, and let's take one cell of the peacock. And in the cell, we have the cell itself has many things in it, right? Like nucleus, cytoplasm, mitochondria, as we discussed earlier. We shall zoom into this nucleus. And if we further go into the nucleus, then we have something called chromosome. And different organisms have different number of pairs of chromosomes. So the peacock, in my example, has 38 pairs of chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. And in these chromosomes, we have something called DNA, or the molecules within the chromosome that basically have the information on everything about how that life has to be developed, formed, etc. All the characteristics of that life, basically. And within this DNA only, we have genes, and that basically determines what color of hair we have, or in the case of peacock, what color the peacock's neck should be, what color the peacock's eyes should be, or feathers should be, etc. So we all have this DNA in our body, and it's very important, as I said, because it contains the information regarding our characteristics, our development, and so on. And sometimes what happens is, and basically this DNA, we need it to always be and work properly. So, and if sometimes there is a damage that happens to the genetic material in the DNA repair is a process that the cells do where they can identify and also fix the damage to the genetic material. So this is to maintain the stability of the genome. And also, this way, the cells try their best to prevent mutations, especially deleterious or harmful to us mutations, like cancer cells, for example. So it's a very highly complex system, and there is various mechanisms that they use to identify and repair the different types of damage in the cell. And there are single strand. So the DNA has the two strands. It's a helix, right? So sometimes they can be a single strand break. Sometimes they can be a double strand break or repair. And sometimes the bases, like this ATGC that you can see here, these are the building blocks or building block molecules of every DNA. So sometimes even these can get modified, or altered. And sometimes they can be really harmful, and that is not what our cells, that is not the ideal situation. So the cells, they're able to identify and fix such damages. One example that I will give here is the base excision repair process. So what the cells here do is they remove the incorrect or the damaged bases, like the building blocks of DNA, like one of these things, ATGC. Basically, they are different molecules that make our DNA. And if one of them has a damage or some alteration, they remove the incorrect ones, and in that place, they put the correct ones. So scientists are finding out now that quantum tunneling might actually be assisting in this process. So because, again, quantum tunneling is where electrons can pass through energy barriers that normally in classical physics, they would not be able to pass through. And in something as small as our DNA, and we have very tiny quantum particles, and then the quantum tunneling would basically, like shown in this picture, they are able to pass through some really high energy barriers through quantum tunneling. This way, the particles are, in fact, even though there is a high energy barrier, they're still able to pass through them, and they allow these reactions to happen more efficiently. So this way, the body or the cell is able to remove deleterious or an incorrect block, like shown in the bottom of the picture, say there is something wrong with the A or the adenine molecule in the genome. And because of quantum tunneling, the particles are able to, the enzymes that help in the repair, they are able to move across this high energy barrier and then remove the unnecessary or incorrect building block. And then in its process, in its place, put another one that's the correct. This way, the base excision repair is done. There are so many other different types of repairs that the cell does too. And they all, different studies are now showing that processes like quantum tunneling is what is helping in the enzymes that are doing this kind of repairing. So the other examples are using quantum effects in medicine. So something new called quantum sensors can basically detect even small biological changes. So it again goes to the same principle of quantum entanglement, for example, where a small change in one particle can also affect in another one. So these kind of sensors, they can enable to detect diseases like cancer at much earlier stage. So they can measure the molecular interactions at a very unprecedented level of precision. So these can be used for diagnostics. And the other thing in medicine is quantum drugs. So basically to use quantum mechanics in designing more effective drugs by understanding how the molecules interact at the quantum level. So the potential is to basically produce drugs that are targeted for that particular diagnosis or treatment, and to reduce the side effects. And this, as I mentioned, we spoke about it when we also spoke about quantum computing, because we know that in the quantum world, the molecules and atoms that comprise to make these drugs basically are able to exist in different states. And again, it's the same principle of being able to, for the quantum computers to simulate so many different possibilities and to find the best possible possibility. So this way they achieve like precise drug designing. And we also have how one can use quantum imaging. And using quantum imaging in medicine is also useful because this can offer high resolution scans. So again, for diagnostics, the more enhanced imaging techniques we have, the better we can diagnose different illnesses. So that is possible with quantum imaging. It is still not in its, it's still a very in its novel development. So there's a lot of potential there. And also quantum computing in medicines, like the example I gave before about how you can simulate different possibilities and choose the best possibility in developing a drug, for example. And this way you can speed up personalized medicine and drug development. This is what they also call as precision, in the larger sense of precision medicine, to be able to give a person a drug that, or a combination of drugs that they require based on their genetic composition and their particular illness, instead of just giving some random drugs that might on average work on the whole population. And what happens is, if you give someone a targeted drug, then one, it removes a lot of side effects, and it also is able to work in better in our system, leading to better improvement of the disease. And these were like quick examples of quantum, but very particularly quantum medicine or quantum biology that I gave. But of course, quantum mechanics can also help with energy and technology in general. So this science can be used to develop ultra-efficient energy storage systems like quantum batteries. And these quantum batteries have much higher densities and also faster charging times. And then we also have quantum computers. So in quantum computers, we could revolutionize a lot of industries that where they can solve the problems that classical computers cannot. So like optimizing supply chains or simulating the complex materials for energy production goes back to the same principle where in this quantum computing, it's possible to simulate multiple choices and then find the best choices in a highly much faster, efficient way. And we also, there's also studies going on with these quantum sensors that I was speaking about, not just in the case of like detecting diseases in the medicine, but also how they can improve the efficiency of solar panels, wind turbine, and also other renewable energy systems, because they can precisely measure how the environmental factors will affect these systems. So for sustainable renewable energy, quantum science can be used for useful technology like this. And another example is also quantum materials. So like superconductors and quantum materials, again, can lead to new energy efficient devices. For example, ferromagnetism itself is one such example. And so to recap, the importance of quantum biology is, or quantum science in general, is all over. So it helps us to look at how living things are super efficient, like how plants use sunlight so perfectly, and then how complex biological processes happen at a level that classical biology cannot explain, like how these enzymes are able to pass through high energy level barriers in our cells and help things like DNA repair and so on. And also how we can use quantum effects in medicine, energy, and technology to make new breakthroughs that will, help sustainably for all of humankind and nature in general. So this quantum science is a big world of opportunities. It's still a growing science. So if someone is still in their school, undergrad, masters, or even later, you have a lot of opportunities to study and work in this field. And I conclude by saying thank you, and also to follow my Instagram page. Um, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was a beautiful presentation, Vandu.
Hello, hi.
Welcome. Hi, Vandana. Thank you for the nice presentation. I really liked one statement in your presentation. Everything is interdisciplinary these days. We had a talk by Kathiravan sir, something related to that aspect as well. Anyways, not getting into there. My question is, I am finding a little bit hard to understand what you would see in a quantum imaging. What kind of images you will get? Because we can correlate like a tunneling microscope, right? You will see objects at its nanoscopic scales, but what could we see through a quantum image? What the image would be? Still, the moment you see electron, quantum mechanics fails.
Yeah,
Right.
you're right. Yeah. As as I mentioned too in my example, as soon as you want to, even if you shed a light on an electron, it completely,
Yeah,
you won't be able to know its momentum and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But quantum imaging comes under the subfield called quantum optics. So
Okay.
again, it does use quantum entanglement and
Hmm.
all that. So it's still new, by the way. So it's basically trying to use use or improve image resolution,
Hmm.
which is not possible in classical optics.
Hmm.
So it can basically, so the light itself has uncertain certainties and features, right? So um, it can be, again, in the light particles itself can be at different positions at the same time and so on. And it's like what they say, the only way you can cut a diamond is with a diamond,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So to control all these fluctuations or noises that is done by these tiny particles, what we can use is another quantum particle or tool like this quantum imaging tools basically. So they help to they help to amplify the images. They help to allow the the technicians to accurately position the laser beams and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, probably in the future, maybe the DNA repair mechanism that you were talking, we might be able to better understand than its current state of art.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. The presentation was nice.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent, Vandana. This is Rajamanikam from Madurai.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
Yeah, a very good presentation. Actually, we studied in MSc and taught this transfer of electrons during the ATP formation. So at the macro level. Now we are able to understand. It's a refresher course for the college teachers, actually. At the quantum level, you have defined the transfer of electrons from cytochrome A to something else. This is called quantum tunneling. All these words are very interesting, and it seems a very good refresher course for the college teachers. Though I am retired from service. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chat
Me.
box comment.
Okay, let me look at the chat box. Would quantum technology lead more precise definition of life? Yes, I mean that is their goal too, right? Like right from understanding the molecular or atomic level of our cell DNA and so on. This way, we are able to understand how life in general is also right from how it's formed or how it's maintained through this through ATP and all that, and also how efficiently like the cells in a plants they are able to choose the best pathway and things like that. Yes, if you're asking about biology, then yes, quantum biology helps or aids in understanding, getting towards more precise definition of life or living things. Same way for the non-living things or things in general, quantum science does help to understand precisely. Can you mention job scope in quantum physics and quantum biology? Oh, yeah, there is a lot of scope. And once again, let me actually share my slide again. It's interesting because I always make these in the end of my slide because I know students or people who have just finished always ask these questions. So right from undergraduate programs to postgraduate programs, there is a lot of scope even in India. So if you're, and as Venki, who just left, also mentioned that this is an interdisciplinary area. So you could either do an undergrad or master's in physics like me, and then switch to more towards biology, or the other way around. Also, you can do a degree in biosciences and then switch to quantum sciences, quantum biology, and so on. And all these institutes in India, this is just, I'm giving like some top university or institute examples, but almost every decent state and central college or university will have at least quantum mechanics or quantum science as a course. Quantum biology is something that one may pursue later in their master's and PhD and so on. And in terms of job scope, I know, for example, researchers in PRL, Ahmedabad, who use quantum mechanics or quantum technology to understand different particles like the electrons in a plasma and so on. And these are used for, I mean, the goal is to use it for like sustainable energy development and so on. Yeah, there is literally a Center for Quantum Technologies and Institute of Quantum Computing too. And there'll be job opportunities and education opportunities here as well. Lot of other scientific institutions all over the world, and even industries, if one is looking at that, always need people who have knowledge in quantum computing and quantum theory in general, for and even in pharmaceutical platforms for drug development and so on. So yes, there is a lot of sorry, yeah. So this is an emerging science, and I would say if you like it, then it's good to get into it.
How DNA-based pairs changes through quantum technology is another question. How DNA-based pairs changes through quantum technology.
Okay, so in my presentation, I spoke about how the cells help to repair the DNA if there is any damage using quantum mechanics or quantum science. So that's the science part of it. Yes, one can develop the theory or the idea or the understanding that we get from that science to make a technology that can also help cure diseases like cancer by mimicking what the cells do and removing or doing the repairing process to cure diseases like cancer. And again, people are working on that research, that kind of research too, and that is also another scope as well.
Yeah, Vandana, I think I had a question more broadly about quantum mechanics and also quantum biology, but I do know that there is something called the observer effect that does play into this as well. And I'm curious, like how are we sort of developing? I understand that the science is developing independent of this observer effect, and it is being studied in greater detail. But how are we sort of building technologies and imaging and all of this on top of on top of this observer effect? Is that indication that I think you understand my question, but I think like if you are observing something and it is sort of changing as you observe it, like how do you know the actual mechanics of the natural process when there is no observer? Like maybe this is a philosophical question less than science, but how is this accounted for is my question actually. Like
no, I mean, it's not just a philosophical question. It is real. It's like one of the things that all these new quantum technology or even science development people do talk about. The one thing I say is, I mean, you must be asking this question regarding this quantum sensor and quantum imaging kind of tools example, right? Like if you're able to, if you're using...
I think my question is that if we are sort of studying the quantum world and there is an understanding that we're developing as a base for technologies and drugs and imaging and all of this, how are we sure that it will work? Like, is there evidence that this is independent of the observer effect, or like how does that operate is my question.
They do take into account, and that is one of the reasons why they have these quantum sensors or quantum imaging, because you need a quantum tool like that to look at something like a quantum phenomenon. So when I gave an example of shining like say a light on an electron and then seeing how it behaves, we lose a lot of information because of the limit in how much certainty you can know, right? But when we use these quantum tools, they are themselves based on the quantum particles. So they entangle, so it uses the same principles like entanglement and superposition and so on.
Yeah.
And this way they are in a way connected to the particles that we are observing, or like a cell or something that's damaged in a DNA, let's say, and then using this tool. So that is why we are using a quantum tool to look into the quantum world, basically. And this is actually increasing the precision, in fact, and the capabilities and so on. Yeah.
Okay. So there's like a fundamentally different way of building these tools than it is using classical physics. Like there is a whole
it's very different. Yeah, like like a quantum sensor will not really look like a regular sensor that we have.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
at the end of the day, they might make it look like it for a lab technician to use it. I don't know,
Mhm.
but want
Yeah.
to, but it actually won't look like that in the sense, or the imaging won't have like a light or the torch light or the light that we have in our cameras, for example. Uh,
Understood.
that will completely change the whole goal or purpose. So
Understood. Okay. Okay.
yeah, so the quantum tools itself exploits the quantum science, or like
Yeah.
entanglement and superposition, to be able to go into that world and give us the precise measurements, or
Okay.
yeah.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Sharang, you can ask your question now.
Yes, sir. Hi, ma'am. I'm Sarang from Trivandrum. I have a doubt that quantum physics and quantum mechanics are same.
Oh, good question. I keep changing the words in my topic, in my lecture too, right? So, I mean, quantum physics comes under quantum science, I would say. So, quantum physics comes under quantum science. Yeah. So it's basically to study matter or energy or life at a very fundamental level. And if we are talking about just electrons and photons and how they behave, then I guess one would study that under quantum physics. But if I'm looking at how the cells or that molecule in that bird is able to entangle with the Earth's magnetic field and how the bird navigates, that would come under quantum biology. But in the end, everything is quantum science. And the way the particle behaves is quantum mechanics. But these are just words. And at the end of the day, it's all interdisciplinary. So you're right. Throughout the lecture, I could have just used the word quantum science. Yeah.
So there are quantum biology and quantum chemistry like that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Ma'am,
I mean-
have you done a research about that?
Sorry, again?
Have you done a research about that?
Personally, after my master's, I haven't done so much in quantum mechanics, at least the development in the science itself. But every day, almost every day at least, now I work in precision medicine. So we are trying as much possible to use quantum technology for precision medicine and so on. And I used to work, as I showed that example of that lab, where they have these small 15-gram weighing birds, and they actually do see how those birds are able to navigate far distances and all that, right? So I would say quantum science plays a role in everything, in everyday thing in life. And any research you do, I think quantum mechanics will definitely play a role. But if you exactly specifically want to work particularly in developing quantum science and quantum technology, that is also possible.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It was a nice presentation.
Thank you.
Archit, you can ask your question. Archit.
So, ma'am, it's an honor to ask this question, but I have a doubt that will quantum mechanics, quantum physics, or anything related to the quantum science be helpful or have a jump in human history?
Jump in what?
Jump in human history.
Yeah, I mean, one could say that for any science or any fundamental science like this. It has quantum science. I mean, it's not quantum science itself. It's not new. It's been since the early 1900s, right? So ever since then, it has made a jump in understanding of science and using that science to create technologies. So it's still like it's still important and doing that, if that's your question.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for Asha. Please.
Ma'am, can you give some advice to choose how to choose some research field? Uh, if a person interested in both astrophysics and quantum mechanics and cosmology, like which subject to choose and how to choose?
I mean, I have jumped so many fields, so I would say, like you're in school right now, or you're doing your undergrad.
I'm a BSc Physics final year student.
Okay, so you're already in physics, so that's good that you also like astrophysics and astronomy. Or it doesn't matter, even if someone is doing biology or any other science in their BSc right now, I would tell them they can always do their MSc or PhD in quantum science or technology, or including quantum biology. So if you like astrophysics already and cosmology, then almost every lot about it is connected to quantum science already, right? So you can maybe join one. I mean, you can also like email me if you want specifically something for you. But in general, because you asked for in the general platform, I would generally say I did my BSc in physics, but then for MSc, you can go to a specialized physics or any other physical sciences or natural sciences program. And you can get even more specific from that in your PhD and then postdoc and so on. So if you here want a career in quantum science and technology, I would say as long as you enjoy and like science in your high school, and I hope you do, and then you pick up science, fundamental sciences, or even engineering in your undergrad, then you can specifically go towards quantum science and technology as well. It has a scope in everything. I don't know if there is going to be any other lecture in this series on quantum science and astrology. I don't know. Rizwan, Ika, maybe you can say that, but there is a scope, yeah.
There's another comment. Please explain the term precision medicine, as I am a beginner to hear the term. Explain the term precision medicine, please, Vandana.
Oh, okay. I completely opened a new topic, I guess, but that's fine. That's what I do. Basically, we are all made up of DNA and genes, right? And our genetic composition is very different for different people, right? Every one of us, I mean, we have a lot of similarities, but there are small differences in our genetic composition, right? So the medications that we are given also ideally would have to be based on our genetic diversity. And a big problem in the world right now is a lot of values or even medications are developed usually in first world countries, and again usually for white people and men and so on. Precision medicine basically tries to look at a more individualized level, because what medication works for an American white male may not work for you and me, right? So that's the basic principle. So looking at different genetic diversity and creating diagnosis and being able to diagnose, and also finding treatment based on that is overall what I would say precision medicine.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you share email ID?
Oh yeah, 1 second. I can put it in the chat if you want. Yeah. Meanwhile, any other questions?
Shaji, there are some more questions in the chat box. Can you read it out for Vandana?
Yeah. There's another long statement and question. For long, quantum mechanics was thought to govern only the subatomic world with no impact on everyday life. But recent discoveries show quantum effects like entanglement, tunneling, and superposition play key roles in biology, from enzyme activity to cognition. It also helps diagnostics and drug development. So both the worlds are merging finally. I mean, there's a comments, but you can
It's a
add.
comment.
Yeah.
But are the both words merging? Is that true?
I mean, we hope that they merge so that all of us can benefit from it. Yeah.
Medication, depending on the system, that is the unique human body, isn't. Oh, I don't understand that question.
Medication, depending on the system, that is the unique body system, is, I mean, precision medicine. If that's the confirmation of the answer, then yes. Medication, depending on the unique genetic composition of every human, is what comes under precision medicine. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a question, how to explain quantum mechanics for laymen. So we are conducting a course for that. We are about to start it in April. Okay, so it's not very easy, but we are trying to do it.
In quantum sensors for diagnostics, how do you get the exact particle entangled with the one in the body? Vandana, can you see that?
Yeah. Is the question asking about how to how they entangle the particles, or how do you get the exact particle entangled with the one in the body? Okay, I think that's the question. That's actually a very interesting question. So if I understand the question correctly, they're asking if when we're doing a diagnostic using a quantum sensor or one of the quantum tools, then how do we ensure that the quantum particles in the tools are connected to the particles in the body that we're trying to research? I think that is the question. And I mean, for that, I may have to give one whole lecture itself. But I would say the quick answer is in basically in stimulus. So the quantum sensor also comes under a different topic that is like solid state physics and so on. So they have like different quantized energy levels and they respond to stimulus. So if one has that device, basically one can align in the classical sense for it to sense a particle in the human body. I mean, that's how I would like simply put it, but the exact technology, I mean, that would be its own lecture. Unless someone has a very easy way of explaining that.
I think I also want to add, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I don't think even the entanglement will work in isolation. I understand that it needs to be studied in isolation to understand the exact interaction, but there are so many other phenomena happening simultaneously, and making it sort of conducive to that entanglement is important.
Yeah, true. And all these sensors also, it's not like they do a one-time measurement, right? They collect many data. Even at the same instant, they may be collecting many data. So the whole thing of quantum computing in that sense, or these kind of tools, is at the same time you can get more data as well and try to get the best out of it also. So it's doing that as well, if I may add.
Thanks പറഞ്ഞേക്ക് നമുക്ക് അവസാനിപ്പിക്കാം.
So thank you so much. ഭയങ്കര സന്തോഷം. Vandana gave a very sweet, beautiful lecture, and this is a fitting beginning for our series on quantum science and technology. A whole series of lectures are being planned. I'm sure at least towards the end you can come in again. Keep in touch and help Luca. You can write your whatever pieces you like in English. We'll translate and put it in Malayalam, which also you understand. So happy to see you. TVV, she is presenting things much in a sweeter way than you. I must tell you. So it's really a proud moment.
Oh, I was waiting for Kiki uncle to say, when are you going to write? And you said it.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, he's like, when are you writing? When are you writing?
No, please do that. Please do that, because now I've been regularly watching your channel on Insta. Some of it, I saw your antibiotics one the other day. Excellent, excellent. So keep it up. What else can I say? I'm absolutely delighted to see you growing into a Nobel laureate slowly. Yes, great. That's all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll definitely keep in touch. Luca, we all. There are friends from TNSF. Thank you all for coming.